Neither WJOU or its licensee, Oakwood University, necessarily share all the views expressed in its programs. They are, however, presented as public information.
Good afternoon and welcome to Second Chance. Second Chance is a weekly talk show that examines a wide range of social issues and seeks to inspire physical, emotional, social, and spiritual healing, believing that God is a God of second chances. And through faith, all things are possible. Second Chance airs live each week from the beautiful campus of Oakwood University and features real people with real issues and offers real answers. And now, here's your host, Kenneth Anderson.
Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Kenny Anderson, host and producer of Second Chance. Delighted to be here with you as I am every Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. We air on 90.1 FM on the radio, WJOU.org, which is on the internet. And for those that really appreciate us, we see you from time to time hopping on the live stream, which is at Praise 90.1 FM on both Facebook and YouTube. So you still have time to do that even at this moment. Also want to say welcome to Sunday, August the 18th. It's just 2 weeks away from the kickoff of Jazz in the Park Huntsville 2024. And we're very excited that it is almost upon us. There's a huge buzz around our community. And so we're excited and sharing the enthusiasm that so many people are expressing at this time. 5 o'clock p.m., 2 weeks from tonight, things will kick off. There'll be a pre-opening act from 5 to 5:30, an opening act from 6 to 7, and then a headliner from 7 to 9 over 5 events. The 1st, 2nd, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd. It's all free of charge. You don't want to miss it. Big Spring Park East is where it's happening, and we look forward to seeing you there. My first guests today are individuals who have graced my broadcast before, and they always elevate my game with their presence. They are Lorenzo and Sarha Wright. We're so happy to have them right back. Look at them sitting in that seat over there. They just look like a happy pair. I mean, we can do the backstory and the family, the love, and all that other stuff another time. We're going to talk money today. And how do we establish wealth? Welcome back to the Second Chance broadcast family.
Thank you, Kenny. How are you?
Thank you for having us.
Listen, I'm doing much better now that I know you all are here, because you all are going to solve all of the economic challenges of the world.
And that's what we're shooting for.
I mean, that's not a stretch. You got to
aim high. You got to aim high.
Absolutely. Listen, guys, Lorenzo and Sarha, of course, are the proud creators, founders, curators, owners, however you want to define them, of a group called the WrightWay360 Group. They focus on things like wealth management, financial literacy, and so much more. And they do literally have the answer to their challenges, answers that are not just born from things that they read in a book, but answers that they have experienced as well. So they have lived experiences in this space. And of course, their highs, their lows, and all of those natural elements of the landscape that many of us consider when we think about finances. I want to start, though, by first of all, just commending you all for the bright light that you all shine in this community, in this nation, and around the world with regards to this topic that at times can be intimidating, it could be scary, it could be something that actually turns people away, and it could also be something that people abuse. And you all have approached this space with grace and generosity, consistently showing up on behalf of others. And I just want to celebrate you all for just the first few moments of this opportunity that we have to be on the broadcast, and say once again, congratulations for the strong example that you set as it relates to the topic that we're going to engage in today.
Thank you, Kenny. We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, I'm very sincere about that because, it's there's a quality of being around people who are authentic. There really is. I mean, there's a clear, distinct difference between real people and people who are not real. And you two are the realists that I know. And I'm just so honored to walk on this journey with you all. And again, I look forward to any opportunity that we have to be able to fellowship together, to grow together, to learn together. And so that's why we're here today. One of the things a lot of people are talking about is the economy. Some days it's up, some days it's down. And this is an interesting time, too, because just like everything else, the economy has been politicized. And so people on the right, people on the left, perhaps independents in between, being pulled on both sides as far as it relates to this particular challenge, are asked to determine how they're going to land. And they're oftentimes asked what their perspective of the landscape is right now. Are we in a good situation? Are we in a bad situation? How would you all characterize where we are in terms of our national economy at this time?
It's a loaded question, but for sure we have an answer. If you're keeping with the economy, you know that in the last couple of days, we've tracked in, and depending on their sources, we lost over $6.4 trillion in the stock market. That in of it itself explains where we are from an economy standpoint. And what we're looking at is that they're speculating that this is going to become a global issue. So it is imperative at this time that we as individuals and families start looking at our finances a little bit differently than what we've been doing, because times are changing. I won't say, and I won't be the doom and gloom and say things are bad. Things could always be better, though. So at this time, we definitely have to start paying attention, because there is a wave of change coming, and the financial shift has already begun.
Well, one of the things that really kind of rankles me when we start talking about the economy is that we know that, when I say we, if you are at least a little bit aware of economic trends through history, we know that the stock market is up, the stock market is down. We know that there are times of excess and there are times of profound deficiency. We know that there's a huge risk involved in terms of being in the market. And so all of the things that we know are to be real about this particular landscape are then, as I said earlier, kind of politicized. And people are sometimes, I think, fear-mongered into making a decision about their perspective on the matter. One of the things I've learned, even for myself over the years, is that staying the course is a much smarter thing than being erratic, being fearful, being reactive, being impulsive, and many of the things that fear produces as a consequence of dour reports regarding the market or regarding the economy. One of the big concerns right now is inflation is up, and I'm sensitive to that. I mean, it does hurt when you go to the grocery store. It does hurt when you go to buy a car. It does hurt when you attempt to buy a home. I get all of that. Inflation is up, but inflation is going to be down again. And so the fear mongering is the thing that really kind of rankles me, because we see this all the time, and then it becomes just a political football as a consequence of that. And if the economy is going well, then we'll vote for you. Or if the economy is going bad, we don't want to vote for you. And really, it's much more than that, because what we're talking about, and tell me if I'm right or wrong here, what we're talking about is a person's individual ability to be able to make meaningful and relevant plans and strategies for their life, not everybody else's, for their life. Would you all agree with me?
Absolutely, absolutely. That political football is being pushed back and forth and kicked all over the place. And at this point, families are feeling it for real. So regardless of the political stance, it's being felt for real in the household.
And it's being felt even like, as you stated, like when you go to the grocery store and you're trying to purchase some sugar and you're looking at a bag of sugar is $5 and you're like, wow, do I purchase this sugar or do I have some type of alternative? It's really getting really hard for families and especially single mothers, single parents home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk in a very practical way for a few moments. How does one approach these challenging times that will come from time to time and be more challenging than other times? How do families create that opportunity to have a rainy day fund? How do families provide an opportunity for their own family to weather the course and to stay the course? What are some practical things that families can do as they approach these questions and these challenges as it relates to finances?
Okay, so some of the things that they can do is start using, this is simple, easy answer, coupons. Mm-hmm. Especially if you can, there's some states that you probably won't be able to get some coupon, but if you can get coupon, use coupon. Go to different stores. Do services for each other. So if I do nails and you do hair, I'll do your hair and you do my nails. So you can do something like that when it comes to trying to make your dollar stretch. Mm-hmm. Or go to the thrift store. I'm a thrifter. You don't have to buy something brand new, name brand or anything like that. Actually, you could probably find some name brand at the thrift store. So that will help out some of the family that needs some of the assistance when it comes to finance. Spend. Do you any other?
We try to be practical because we do budget challenges as well, and we try to be practical in the advice that we give. Working together as families, especially in the minority community, is something that we've moved away from and need to get back to. So we always recommend to our families and that to our classes, hey, you can work together with your family members and counterparts to save a buck by simply, somebody's got a Costco card, Sam's Club, BJ's, and you can buy in bulk. Everybody puts in, you buy in bulk, you save, and everybody gets to share out what, your whatever goods you're purchasing at a discount, but you're using group economics. There's a key word there. We're using group economics to increase our buying power so that we can do better for ourselves.
And then the other thing, adding on to that, the other thing is knowing your budget. Because a lot of people don't know how much money that they are actually bringing into the home. So they overspend. So I would say always write your budget down. When you see it, you know exactly what you can do with your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was hoping you say a little more about that because we hear that word all the time: budget. Know your budget, have your budget, monitor your budget, adjust your budget. But budgeting takes some discipline, doesn't it? Once you've been able to assess what's coming in, don't you have to have a degree of discipline in order to be able to stay within the margins?
Absolutely, you do. But once you start, it will become a second nature. So just like anything else, it's just like riding a bike. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you'll just keep doing it. A lot of time, the reason why people cannot stay on a budget is because they're not taught properly how to budget and how to stay on a budget. And when you hear budget, a lot of people cringe, like, oh my goodness, I'm on a budget. Am I broke? No, it's not that. Everything has a budget. Even businesses have budget, because if you don't have a budget, you're going to overspend. So it's something that we need to teach more in our household and with our children also, because if we start with the young folks, it will be, like I said earlier, second nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a budget should be looked at as a guideline. Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, a budget should be looked at as a guideline, not a restriction. And like she said, most folks look at it when they hear the word budget, it's restrictive, and it shouldn't be. What you should do, and there's multiple strategies that you can learn as far as budgeting is concerned. There's the 80-20 rule, there's the 80-10-10 rule, there's the 70-10-10-10 rule. If you don't know these things, these are things that you can use as far as strategies to help you budget and do the things that you want to do without living a restrictive life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So with regards to budgeting and the notion of it being restricted for many people, isn't it important to tie a budget to goals, whether they be short-term goals or long-term goals? Because a big part of what one has access to really kind of determines how that person moves forward and then where they land in the future.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you don't have a direction, what are you budgeting for?
Mhm.
You know, the goal is not just to exist. You know, everybody has dreams and aspirations. You know, it might be, for us, we wanted the freedom to be at home with our children and one day be able to be those grandparents that could go to the games with the kids and show up at the PTA meetings. So you have to have a goal in order to set your compass in that direction, and the budget becomes the guideline that you use to get there. So yeah, again, not looking at budget as restrictive, you're setting your goal and you're setting your direction to get there.
So it's like looking at your budget as a blueprint.
Blueprint, yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I'm still always kind of blown away at when a person sits down and really looks at a budget in terms of what their expenses are. Uh, they add up very quickly, and they also reveal quickly some things that are realities about a person's life that they may be able to make adjustments in real time that would allow them to be able to restructure their lives from a financial perspective. You know, whether that's eating out, which is extremely expensive. I mean, you used to think about eating out as going to Ruth's Chris as expensive. I mean, you go to some fast food places. If you're a family, you'll drop $125 easily.
yes,
Yep.
we know.
Yeah.
So lived experiences.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Family of six, that's a small budget for dinner eating out.
Yeah, and it does even even pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza usually was the cost effective way of eating out.
Mm.
Now pizza is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
You're gonna hit a good $70 to feed a family of four just ordering pizza, which used to be the
The least
least
yeah.
expensive thing to order when you have a
Yeah.
big family.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things to think about in there. Of course, I have opportunities on this broadcast to talk about home ownership, which still remains fundamental to the American dream, as many people will say. And that when we start thinking about having property, real property that one owns, you really start talking about an opportunity to be in that game in realistic and meaningful ways. What are your thoughts about home ownership right now? Where you think things are as far as the market is concerned, and just the basic fundamental element of home ownership, which many people have rejected, not just because of the cost, but because of other things like maintenance and other kinds of things.
Yeah.
Well, for us, we tell people that if they're wanting to purchase a property, it doesn't matter which economy, we say buy it. We say buy it, buy it, buy it. Buy it now because you can always refi later, so your cost could be a little bit less. So don't wait on buying a property because of the interest rate, and interest rates goes ups and down throughout the month, sometime throughout the year. So don't look at it that way. You just want to have the control of that property that you want, and then worry about the other situation later by refinancing and getting a lower rate.
Right. And again, to directly answer your question on how we feel about it,
Mhm.
generational wealth is the goal. There in our community, we should not be running a 100-yard dash and then start the race over again every generation. And in the minority community, this is what's happening. And we focus as a family in making sure that we're not running the 100, we're running the 4x1. I'm going to hand you the baton. My parents handed it to me. We're going to hand it to our kids, and our kids are going to hand it to their kids. And the way that we're going to apply that to life is that when building generational wealth, home ownership is the first step. Why? Because it's the largest purchase that you're going to make that's going to appreciate, that's going to allow you to build the equity that you need to start other investments. And the goal, like I said, is to get control of the asset. Once you get control of the asset, you start to change the game in your favor. So we advocate, get a home, because the home is the easiest and quickest way to build wealth. Real estate is the fundamentals of wealth, the wealth pillars.
Yeah. Absolutely. And of course, you all are, based on both of the things we just talked about, budgeting and real estate investment, you all actually offer courses and classes so that people can be educated about these things. Tell us a little bit about those opportunities.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a first we always tell our client to always start with budgeting because we need to know how much you have to spend and how so once you do that, then there's other classes that we teach. So we also teach invest because you know with everyone else because we've been through it. And when I tell you our story where we lost everything and we wish we had something that was like in our hand, not what to do. So we decided that no, we're gonna make it. It's gonna stop right here with us. We're gonna make a difference. We're gonna educate the community so they don't fall into the same predicament that we did. And we teach we a whole 360 approach to our financial literacy. So we also have a product where at the end we show you how to protect your investment, and then we also have trust. If show them how to do a trust. So how to put their property and everything that they have invested into a trust, so they can pass it on to the next generation, and so on and so on.
Yeah, listen, the point that you all have just made is that no one's hiding this information. There are people who are willing to share it. There are people who are willing to invest in it. You and I both know that everybody's not going to take advantage of it, but we hope that there are people out there listening today that will reach out to you to find out how they can go about doing that. A good friend of mine, Dr. Rupert Bushner, used to always say success leaves clues. And you don't have to stumble through life trying to figure out where to find success. You just have to follow successful people and not do exactly what they did, but understand the basic and fundamental principles that have directed them in a certain way. I want to say congratulations to Sarah because she's an author. She has a book that was recently released. And I want you to tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay, so now, let me tell you, and we thought, I'm an educator myself, we thought they know how to write a check. Out of 4 of them, only 1 knew how to write a check. So I'm like, okay, I know they're based all the time, but in certain business that we do, you have to write a check. So I said, okay, we need to come up and teach younger. I came up with Nyla's Check Adventure. So it's an interactive workshop buy product, and when they buy the product they have to use a check to pay for the product. It's an amazing concept, and I'm going to continue doing that concept, and that book made me a #1 seller on Amazon. So I'm very excited about that and very proud of that. Thank you.
Yeah, I could tell somebody sitting next to you is pretty proud of you too.
Hey, I'm married to a #1 bestseller, man. I'm good.
Listen, that's all right. There was an epic event that took place earlier this year, and that epic event was 360 Wealth Money Talks. It was a full day of investing in people's lives in ways that I know the goal was to just help somebody understand that their potential is not going to be enough. The idea that you may think you can do something is not enough, but you can actually literally take a step forward and get that much closer to your goal than you may have ever even imagined. That was such a successful international event this year. You're going to do it again next year. And the buzz is already high about it. And that is very exciting. Tell us about this forum that you all have created.
So the 360 Wealth Money Talks Roundtable is basically an all-day forum where we talk about everything finance. no matter where you are, what walk of life you're at, and stages wise, there is something for you. Whether you're building wealth, you're just trying to figure out how to get your bank account together. If you already have wealth and you're maybe in your later stage of life and you want to figure out how to protect it and pass it on, we have trusts and wills. We have the country who come out and they discuss their aspect of business and how it relates to your aspect of life, so that there's that, like you talked about, there's somebody out there that understands what you're going through and can help you get over that hump. There's no reason why we need to keep guessing. And the 360, we consider ourselves a family of service. And the 360 Wealth Money Talks Roundtable is all about service to the community. All of these speakers that we have come out all agree and believe that they should be providing services and giving back. And if I may, our very own Kenny Anderson was our keynote speaker at our last one, and we appreciate you for that. Yes. You really set the bar, and you really helped to create an environment and an event that became the talk of the town, but not only that, became the talk of the international society. So hats off to you, Kenny. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing that. We put the ask out, and Kenny said, yes, I'll do it. And let me tell you, if you missed it,
you don't want to miss it.
You don't want to miss the next one, I promise you.
And it will be held in April.
Yes.
You know, since April is Financial Literacy Month. So it will be held, you know, stay tuned for that. Yeah. We don't have an actual date in place yet, but it's
coming soon.
It's coming soon.
As early as this week, possibly.
Yes, possibly. So we're working on that right now as we speak.
Wow. Give the people what they want and lots of time to prepare for it. I love that. And, you know, you had an international audience. I know I always say whoever's supposed to be in the room is supposed to be in the room. And literally there were a lot of people in the virtual room who were logged on, following this process, checking it out. The number was?
We had people from Africa, Dubai, Canada, Tokyo. We had people from all over the world.
We broke the 11 million mark in views as an organization. So we're ecstatic. It has been established. Again, this will be a yearly event. Next year will be bigger and better. We touched so many lives because we got so many messages from around the world of folks that tuned in that, you know, it literally brought tears to us, because again, being family of service and knowing that we did help some folks see the light and that there was help there available to them, it blew us away.
Well, listen, it was an awesome day. I know I'm already looking forward to April 2025. I just want to be in the room because, you know, we always say iron sharpens iron. And it's like there was a lot of iron in that room that day. And so folks that walked out of there was sharper, brighter, inspired. I mean, it was just an amazing experience and so wonderful to have, being led by two people who I respect very much. Lorenzo and Sarah, tell people how they can get in touch with you. I know you have a strong social media presence as well. How can people learn more about the WrightWay360 Group?
Okay, we are on YouTube, IG, Facebook, and also TikTok at the WrightWay360. And you can also reach us at the WrightWay360.com. And if you're interested in my knowledge check adventure, you can purchase that from Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or you can go to nylascheckadventure.com and purchase your copy. And we also have a coloring book to go with it.
Listen, you know that term, multiple streams of income?
There you go.
One of my favorite words. Listen,
yes,
sir.
I want to say to you all once again, thank you for being here today. Thank you for being one of the sponsors of Jazz in the Park. You guys are just amazing. You're like a rock in this community. You're grounded. You're invested. And Huntsville, Madison County, this region, this nation, and the world are better because of you. So thank you for being here today. Lorenzo Sarha Wright. Listen, if y'all don't know these folks, y'all get to know them. I mean, follow them on social media, reach out to them. They have a ton of information that will bless your life and improve your life in ways that you could not even imagine. So take full advantage of them. You guys take care of yourselves until I see you again.
Thank you,
Thank
Kenny.
you.
Appreciate you.
All right. Have a great day.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you. What a great way to start the broadcast today on this beautiful Sunday afternoon in Huntsville, Alabama, August the 18th. I tell you, folks, it just gets better and better from here. We have got a great show for you today with a lot of really substantive and good information, and we're going to share that in just a few moments. I'm going to play a short transition so you guys kind of know who we are and what we're doing, and I'm going to get right back into my next conversation. The Second Chance. I'm Kenny Anderson. I hope that you're having a great day.
Transforming lives.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
We're having a great experience now, and we're very grateful and appreciative that you are here with us in this place. You know, I got to tell you guys something that you may not realize, but live radio is always a journey. Joining me now is Zoie Roberson. She, of course, has been on my broadcast before. I could not wait to get her back on my broadcast. In fact, when I run into her in the community from time to time, I'm always very grateful to see her because she is a shining light in this community. Zoie, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge just one thing at the very top of the show because I know that he is just celebrating the 44th anniversary of a staple in this community, and that is Speaking Out News, my good friend, Mr. William Smothers, the publisher of that newspaper, and this is his granddaughter. And I am so happy to have you here because I have so much respect for him, of course. You are also a youth editor, third generation. I mean, the beat just goes on and on. We talked in the last segment about legacy, and you are prime proof of how legacy evolves and why it's so valuable and so important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Listen, good to have you here today. And you just recently participated in a pretty big event that took place right here in the city of Huntsville. The MCDEC Youth Caucus held an event called Fit to Vote, and this is that time of year where people are being energized around registering to vote, and we can't just register people. We got to get them to the polls too.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we want them to be educated in that process. Let's talk a little bit about that particular initiative.
Yes. So Fit to Vote, it's a campaign. It's a multi-county campaign that is actually part of a recent initiative that we launched called Impact Ignite. So Impact Ignite, it's aimed to boost young voter participation especially. But of course, we just want everyone to get out to the polls and vote. And Fit to Vote, it's a bit creative and unique in the way that it centers around individuals wearing outfits, apparel that represent a political issue that is dear to them specifically. We want you to showcase what issues motivate you to go and vote. The whole aim of the campaign is really to refocus people onto exactly what they need to be voting for. We get caught up in who are we voting for? You know, I'm voting for this person, voting for that person. But beyond the candidate, what are you voting for? And so that's what the campaign aims to do.
Yeah, what are the issues? You know, folks, you can tell she's a chip off the old William Smothers block. There's no question about that. Let me ask you this, Zoie, because you are always so impressive, and you're somebody I know I can sit around and just talk all day because you have such a deep well of knowledge and information. What was it like growing up with your granddad, a person who is so committed to Black empowerment, family, and more?
Absolutely. My granddad, he has always, as you know, has been in that field of serving the community. So growing up with him, he would always bring me into his office, sit me on his lap, and give me that drill talk on how, Zoie, you have to make sure that you have some meaningful life to the community. It can't just, your life can't just matter or be meaningful to you and, you know, the people around you, but you have to make sure that you make some positive impact on your community. He would always drill me with that. And then also he would make me stuff newspapers. So as I'm stuffing newspapers, I would see article titles And so I learned a few things. When people come through the office, he would have, hey, this is my granddaughter. Zoe, introduce yourself. So, he was also making sure that I was privy to what is going on in the community. He was making sure I was meeting some of the change makers. As I've been out in the community, we'll hear some people say, I remember when you were just a little kid running around the office. So he had me making sure that I was already surrounded with people that were in the field of public service. And then, like I said, him just talking to me and pouring into me, giving me that wisdom kind of encouraged me to take the same route. And maybe not in the exact same way in which he did, but in the way of, I know that I want to contribute positively to my community.
Yeah. Talk to me about your academic journey, because I know just from your presentation now, you were engaged in extracurricular activities and other kinds of things that were going on in that academic space. But talk a little bit about your academic journey through high school on to college.
Yes. So I actually, from high school, graduated from the College Academy at Mae Jemison High School. And so thanks to that program, I was able to start college as a junior. So I went to the University of Massachusetts in Boston, and I graduated when I was 19 with a political science degree. And thanks be to God as well, I also had the opportunity to study politics at Oxford University, Trinity College as well. So now I'm here, I'm back at home. I will say I'm also studying for the LSAT because law school is in the sights.
Wow, that is awesome.
Good luck on that. Yes. And I'm also here, like I said, to contribute as best as I can to my community. This is an important year that will determine how we go forward. Are we going forward? Are we going backward? And so I want to make sure that I have a hand in that.
Have you always felt the responsibility to be a part of the electoral process? Well, when did that begin for you? And I know you seem to have a lot of fire about it now. So just kind of talk a little bit about that journey for yourself.
Yeah. So I was kind of that person. I was always engaged in what's going on. Like I said, being around my granddad, news media. I was always hearing about what's going on. My mom, she would always talk to me about it. So I was concerned with it. But when I was younger, I'd say later on in high school kind of age, I did not feel as though what I did would count, or like my involvement as in voting would count, until later on I decided to, hey, get on Google and do some research. And so I did some research just on how our votes actually count. And I think this is something that a lot of people have to realize when we ask the question, do our votes count? They do. You just have to understand exactly how they do. And I know for me, I was thinking about the Electoral College, and that thought alone kind of made me say, well, then how do our votes count? Like I said, this was my train of thought mid to later on in high school. And so I was thinking about the 2016 election on how Hillary, she won the popular vote, but lost the Electoral College vote. So, this was kind of my mind space. How do our votes actually count? And so doing that deep dive in research, I actually found that even though the Electoral College is here, we can actually take slow and steady efforts to actually have some kind of impact when it comes to voting. And so that's kind of what I learned. Went on to college to learn more and more and more about that. And so now I'm kind of here advocating for voter participation, trying to tell people exactly how their vote counts.
Yeah. I mentioned as I was beginning to talk about this conversation, work that you're invested in right now, that it really is not enough to get somebody registered. It's also about getting somebody turned out.
Exactly.
But here's what I advocate for. I advocate for an educated electorate, people who know the candidate beyond the personality, as you just said, people who understand the policies that are align with this person, the things that they have supported or the things that they may have rejected, that they have information going into that voting space by which they can make the best possible decision for themselves and not vote against their interests, which a lot of people tend to do.
Right, exactly.
Talk to me about your process when it comes to approaching an election.
Yes, absolutely. So, there are multiple resources out there that kind of educate you on the candidates that you're considering voting for. or the candidates that are running in the election. So I think we have to actually take that time to say, hey, let me go do some research on that. Again, that's kind of what I'm advocating for. Go do the research. I mean, you have the resources to find out who what the candidate is supporting, what policies they support. So that's kind of what I do. I go on a deep dive. Like, we have these municipal elections coming up. And so the candidates in my district, I literally just went on Google, searched them up, and just read through their whole campaign site. I mean, that's what you have to do to learn about the policies that they're standing for, what they aim to do, and their plans.
Yeah. What kinds of issues resonate with you most at this time?
So if you ask me, I think there are a ton of issues that really resonate with me. And I think we can sort of clump this all into, I don't want our society to go backward. I don't want to go back into the time where people like me, Black and a woman, where we had limited rights, freedoms, and opportunities. One of the biggest issues for me is the abortion ban. I mean, how can you try to tell a woman how she can go about her pregnancy, or what choice she needs to make in terms of her healthcare, or how she plans, or if she plans to have the baby or not? It's to me, it's taking away our freedom, which, it's kind of sad, because you look and see down the line years before, it's like my grandmother before had more rights than I do now. So it's really crazy to me. That's one of the issues that are big, that really rest on my heart. And then another issue, in my opinion, is voter suppression. I mean, it's kind of sad, because we're talking about voting, right? And so as you go out and you excite people out about voting, you have to make that realization that a lot of people are going to turn up in November to the election polls just to find out that they have been purged from the voter registration list. And so I think a lot of people have to be aware of this. We're aware of the mainstream issues, but we have to be aware of those very subtle, very quiet weapons that are forming against us and trying to take our rights, specifically voting rights.
Yeah, you make such a great point in saying that too, because a lot of people are clearly going to get fired up about going to the polls this November. But if we're not vigilant along the way,
exactly,
if we're not doing our own due diligence, if we're not checking in and making sure and confirming things, and we just kind of show up, we're not doing ourselves enough justice in order to participate. And that could be a challenge.
It can definitely be a challenge. And one of my fears too is that a lot of people are just going to be excited about the presidential candidates and go vote for the presidential candidates. But we have to vote down the entire ballot, because let's say Vice President Kamala wins the election. If we have a Democrat president, they are not going to be able to carry out the plans that they want to and do exactly what they want to do if they're blocked by Congress. So we have to make sure that we also vote down the ballot and try to also take Congress. And I'm speaking from a Democrat standpoint. But yes, so if we want the change, we can't just focus on the presidential candidate. We also have to look to Congress as well.
Yeah. Let me ask you about your level of enthusiasm. Before I ask you about your level of enthusiasm. So prior to the vice president becoming the candidate for the Democrats, Joe Biden was running for president, and again, re-election. And of course, his campaign was experiencing quite a bit of challenge for any number of reasons. It wasn't just his age, but it was also things related to what people were talking about, related to the economy, immigration, and so much more. Were you supporting Joe Biden until the time that he stepped aside? And then how would you characterize your level of enthusiasm at this time as it relates to Vice President Harris?
Yes, so I was supporting President Joe Biden, of course. But when he did step down, I was extremely excited for Vice President Kamala Harris. I think that she is the best choice right now, and she is definitely a force against former President Donald Trump. But I was also excited because it kinds of open up opportunities for more people like me. And that's kind of how I was looking at it as well. because Vice President Kamala Harris, she's going to support the same policies kind of as like what President Joe Biden did. She's going to take the similar route. But something that's a bit different from her is she is a woman and a woman of color. So this shows another milestone that our society is taking. And it's really been a big thing that is exciting me lately. And it's also inspiring, like I said, for women like me, and for other younger women of color, girls of color as well. So I'm super ecstatic about Vice President Kamala Harris running for the presidential election.
Now, young people in your cohort often get a kind of a bad rap, I think, and maybe there's some statistical things aligned with this, but they say you're not invested, you're not interested, you don't really show up consistently in political spaces. How would you characterize your cohort right now, people your age, and as you look around this community as well as around the nation, what are you seeing in terms of the people your age?
Yes. Well, I want to ask you a question. Would you support someone who does not engage with you, who does not necessarily include you?
No.
Exactly. Well, so that's that's the thing. That's the thing with us. I mean, if we're not feeling engaged, let's say you're taking the efforts, but if we're not feeling that you are engaging us, if we're not feeling included, regarded, we're not supporting you. You're not going to grab our vote. And I think another thing is too, we also know when you're wanting something. We know when you're coming to our communities, our younger generations, because you just want our vote. We can see the bait. I think my generation is very aware. I mean, even statistically, the IQ grows every generation. So I think we're very aware. We're a very bright generation. We have social media, we have the internet. So we have a wide range of resources to learn from. We're informed, we're aware. Now, I would say there are some areas I would need to sort of brush up on, of course, but we are definitely aware. And right now, when we look at politics, it can sometimes be like a gerontocracy. And so I believe that you can start pulling us in. You can start definitely engaging us when we see us in those positions of authority. Because right now, I don't think that we are being engaged with completely. Now, I do genuinely appreciate, however, those people in the older generations, in those positions of power that are reaching out to our generation. You have people like Representative Laura Hall, former U.S. Congressman Parker Griffith. They are really big advocates for the youth, and I'm genuinely appreciative of it.
Yeah, that is such an important demographic to engage at all levels. You know, politics is one arena, but I think every single industry needs to benefit from this generation that has a voice, and we should give them a voice, and we should spend time listening to you and trying to understand you and understand what you have to contribute to the discourse, because you do have something to say, and you should not be written off. You should not be marginalized. You should not be excluded in that process. And certainly that becomes clearly evident at these times when people are being elected. They want you, like you said, because they want your vote, but what are they really giving in return in that process? I suspect that you are really, really fired up about Vice President Harris, like a lot of people are who are in the Democratic Party. I consider myself an independent, even though I'm a Democratic-leaning independent. But I have voted for other people as well on the other side. I voted for Republicans and independents, and over the course of my voting career, which is pretty lengthy. And it kind of goes back to the thing I was saying earlier about looking at the candidate's record and really voting for the person who you think best represents them. We are at crossroads in this nation. We hear about Project 2025. We hear about all of the voter suppression efforts that are being made. We even hear about the potential for another January 6th type event should Vice President Harris prevail. Are you concerned that if Vice President Harris should prevail, that there will be unrest in our nation and perhaps violence?
I was actually having a conversation about this with someone the other day. Regardless of if Vice President Kamala Harris wins the election or not, it's going to be unrest in the community because there have been things said by the former President Donald Trump on what would happen if he does not win the election. It's going to be a bloodbath. So the thing is, it's going to be unrest regardless of the outcome of the election. And I think we have to brace ourselves for that. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've been kind of nervous about that because we are in a Republican state. We are in a red state. And as people of color, I am now trying to contemplate, if Vice President Kamala Harris wins, what can we expect? What kind of pushback can we expect? And I'm really actually nervous to see that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the DEI ban in the state that goes into effect on October the 1st and has resulted in the closing of DEI offices at institutions like UA, as well as Auburn, as well as Jacksonville State? And it's almost like it's coming to a city near you because it's sort of not just moving through our state, it's moving across the nation. What are your thoughts about those kinds of efforts?
It's these kind of efforts that are taking us backward. And honestly, that's my overall thought. And so we have to try our hardest to fight this. And we clearly see, I don't want to talk too much on this, but we clearly see that despite people showing videos of them going to certain Republican candidates, specifically former President Donald Trump, and saying, oh, he doesn't treat me racist. Oh, he shook my hand. He gave me a hug. Let's look at the policies. Let's look at what they're actually doing. And so when we see things like this, diversity, equity, inclusion, which are being attacked, they don't care. They don't respect diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we clearly see that as well with how they called Vice President Kamala Harris a DEI hire. They have no respect for it. And I'm sorry, but the United States, we are only growing more diverse. This is no longer a place anymore for us to be exclusive, for us to be anti-diversity and equity. It's no longer a place for it.
Yeah, well, we stand lockstep on that because as the DEI director of the city, I've had the privilege over the last 12 years to provide a safe space for people, to support people who felt like they may not have had a voice, to try to elevate some issues and concerns that people had. And it's the kind of work that needs to continue. I say proactively engage in the process. I stay proactively engaged in the process. I'm not trying to argue with a bunch of people, typically who don't even know what DEI is.
Right, exactly.
But I keep trying to lead by example in very powerful ways and say, I know what you may be thinking, but this is what it really looks like.
Right.
It looks so much like who we are as people. I mean, we are so much alike from our DNA structure to so many other ways that we share common bonds, but also, to me, it's our diversity, it's our differences that make us even richer.
Exactly.
A basketball team that only has a center who's 7 feet and a guard that's 6'2", with a bunch of supporting players is not going to be as effective as a team that spreads out the love in terms of the player skills and abilities.
Exactly. And I'm honestly surprised that we are in a time where we would even be against diversity, because diversity has statistically been shown to also drive boost the economy. And so because you're bringing in more minds, different kinds of minds, and they have different kinds of ideas and approaches of doing things. So what is that going to do? That's going to spur innovation. That is definitely going to build our economy. So I'm really surprised that we're against diversity. It's really a benefit that we need to take advantage of.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit. So we're moving towards, this is, of course, August the 18th, and we're just weeks away now from the national election. You made an excellent point earlier. I hope you'll emphasize this one more time. The down ballot matters just as much. Some people say all elections or all politics are local. So don't ignore school board elections. Don't ignore municipal elections, county government elections, judicial elections at the local level. Don't ignore those things. But as people move into this very important season where we first have a municipal election in August at the end of this month, and then we have a national election in November with other elections taking place all around the nation, because this is a national broadcast. People are listening in lots of different places. As a young person, what would you say to people listening who may not necessarily be fully convinced that voting matters or that they should be engaged in this process?
That's a good question. What I say is kind of my answer to previous questions as well. You need to do your research. And luckily you have people like me, you have people like you who are actually trying to educate people about actually how their vote counts. And I want to kind of sort of circle back around to the Electoral College, because I know that is on a lot of people's mind when they ask the question, how does my vote count? Instantly go to that, especially during a presidential election year. When it comes to the Electoral College, there are 538 electors. So there's an elector for each U.S. Senate and each U.S. representative. Alabama, we have 9. So we have to think about how these electors are selected. There's a twofold process to this. The first one is the electors are selected at the state party conventions, or the state parties decide on their slate of electors. Second fold process. When we go to the ballot on November 5th, we're not directly electing the president. We are electing the electors. And so we're electing, which slate of electors are we going to choose? Are we going to choose a Republican slate of electors or the Democrat slate of electors? So saying that to say, if you are a fellow Democratic voter like myself in a Republican state, and if you want to be a force against the majority, what you're going to have to do is not sit on your couch and cross your fingers and hope for a better day. No, what you have to do is call your friends, call your family, try to raise up more people to vote as well. That's how we are going to be a force against the majority in this Republican state. So yes, and speaking to the other state and local elections as well, like you kind of mentioned, national politics is local politics is national. There are a lot of things that are going on in the state of Alabama alone that state government is not necessarily handling well. Let's talk about, for example, I mentioned before the abortion ban and how hard, the other side is trying to, bring babies here. So my thing is, when they get here, the question is, then what, right? And I'm using this as an example. Then what? The state of Alabama, we were given $6 billion during COVID-19. And what we did with that was spend that on growing prisons. And we actually ended the summer meal program to give food to children during the summer. So my thing is, you'll get them here, but at least provide them with food during the summer, at least provide for their well-being. So essentially what I'm saying is here, we also have to look at state level policies that are being made, because they do affect our future. They do affect our livelihood and our well-being. And we also have to look at city, local politics as well, because they also affect our livelihood. They affect our education. They affect, they affect the cost of living. They affect so many things in our daily living, and we have to make sure that we participate in each level of election.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better, Zoie. If you want people to connect with you, to learn more about the work that you're doing, and you have a place you want people to go to, what would that information be?
Yes. So you can actually go to the Madison County Democratic Party website to learn more information. And you can also come to the Impact Ignite. I mentioned before how Fit to Vote the campaign is part of the Impact Ignite initiative to boost young voter participation. Well, we have a website. It's impactignite.org. And you can go on that site to learn more, to reach out and contact us to learn more about the candidates, or maybe learn about how or where to go to register to vote, or learn about, perhaps where's your voting precinct. You can contact us. And we are ready. We are ready to help you and to spur the next election. Well, the upcoming election in November. We are ready. We're powered up. We're fired up, and we're ready to go. So definitely, if you would like to talk more or learn more things, please come contact us on impactignite.org. And that is Impact, IMPACT, Ignite, IGNITE.org. I had someone the other day, they spelled Ignite, IGNIGHT. So I have to make sure I'm clear with how we're doing. Yes, I have to make sure I'm clear. So yes.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that clarification, because people can get caught up in the moment and definitely make that mistake.
Yes.
Zoie, you're remarkable. You're a remarkable person, and I celebrate what you bring to the table. Your voice matters. Your voice is important, and I hope you keep using it in this particular way. I'm going to do a post-election show in November, and I hope you'll come back and join me for some post-election analysis. I would love to have you on the show and have you lend your perspective to the process.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Zoie Roberson, she is a powerhouse. My goodness. I mean, she knows how to bring it for sure. And I know that she comes from a legacy of, Mr. William Smothers, who's the publisher of Speaking Out News, celebrating 44 years this year in existence. If you're not connected to Speaking Out News, you need to check it out to get your information. You may have a hard time finding a Huntsville Time these days, but you shouldn't have any trouble finding a Speaking Out News, and you should definitely check it out. I'm going to come back in just a moment with my next guest. I'm Kenny Anderson at Second Chance. I hope you're having a great day.
Why do we say praise 90.1 FM? Because the blessing is in the praise.
Jesus, I praise your name forever. Your words proclaim I'll serve you. The night is gonna burn. It'll be all over in the morning.
And the praise on the inside, I can't keep to
Filling your day with songs of praise. We're Praise 90.1 FM.
Transforming lives.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Zoie Roberson. She, of course, is one of the individuals who is promoting an initiative by MCDEC Youth Caucus called Fit to Vote, as well as so much more. And we hope that you'll definitely check her out, find out more about what she's doing in this community and beyond. My next guest is also no stranger to this broadcast. He's Marc Lacy. He's a good friend. Marc and I have known each other forever, it seems. And that's better for me because as a result of having known him, I know I'm a better person. Marc Lacy, what's going on, brother?
Hey, greetings. It's a pleasure and a blessing to be in the house once again.
Man, looks like you're going down on brims and beats already, man. That's event number 3 for Jazz in the Park.
Hey, I had to come on to do a preview.
I love it. I absolutely love it, man. Great to have you. Marc, of course, is an author. He's so much more, but he's an author. And one of the reasons that he often comes on this show is to talk about his journey as an author. And I'm always delighted and excited when he has an opportunity to do so, especially when he has a brand new publication. The brand new publication is Coco Inferno, Rock and Fire Part 2, Tempting Lyrics of Blazing Mahogany Ecstasy. This will be the PG version, of course, because I can only imagine the fire in this thing. This is, what number book is this for you, by the way, Marc?
This is publication number 14.
And let me tell you something. I remember number 1. going all the way back. I was proud of you then. I'm even prouder of you now. And I'm going to start right here, and we'll just kind of walk our way back. Right. But what have you learned over this journey with regards to writing books and publishing books?
Okay, that's a great question. First of all, I've learned to partition the two subjects. The first, writing. The second, the business of publishing. And one should always strive to be the best writer that they can be. And over the years, we as writers should work on our craft, and it should evolve. And that evolution should be illustrated in our writing. However, the business of publishing has evolved over the years as well. And if one is self-published like myself, then it's imperative to continue to study the trends and learn how you can best get your product out there, putting yourself and your brand in the best position to be successful.
Yeah. What has changed in terms of the industry? I'm going to go back myself to 1995 when I launched my first business, Maximum Life Enhancement. And I remember going to a local print shop, and it had 100 4-color brochures made. And I want to say it cost me around $1,100, $1,200. And I know that, we're talking almost 30 years ago. So the cost of doing this kind of thing certainly has had to change, but also the tools that are required to do this thing has certainly changed. The marketing techniques have certainly changed. Talk to me about some of the changes that you've seen along the way, going all the way back to number 1 to number 14 today.
Okay, so I was first published in 2004 with the Looking Hard Poetic Expressions from Within. And when I started touring nationally, African-American mom and pop shops were very prevalent during that time. And the mom and pop shops, along with book clubs, were basically the bloodline for independent African-American authors. However, as the ebook evolution came on the horizon, it almost had the same impact as that which occurred when we had a lot of physical record stores back in the day. Once all these digital downloads were taking place, and I just want to preface this by saying I'm not complaining about it, it just is what it is. The age of the ebook and the prevalence of that basically, I don't want to say eradicated, because that's just a harsh word. At the time, it lessened the impact of the mom and pop shop, and thus many of them were forced to close. And a lot of major chain bookstores closed, starting at that particular point and throughout the years because of it. You have every place where books are digitally downloadable. That's where most of the attention went, and that's where most of the business occurred. Now, with the exception of your staple major chain bookstores, the mom and pop shops were basically non-existent for a while there. Now, I hear that they're coming back into phase. However, when we got into this smartphone era, more people were apt to read books on the go. If they can't download it to their device, then they may not want to read it. However, hats off to my avid readers out there who still get a joy by having a physical trade paperback or hardcover book in their hands, reading it cover to cover. Now, also, when I came on the scene back in the day, there were only a handful of African-American authors that everybody knew about. And then over the years, man, everything just boomed, and now the market is basically flooded. Everybody and their mama, if they're not published, they want to be published. And so, and people are taking advantage, of course, of having the opportunity to produce ebooks to where they're downloadable via the Amazon Kindle or the Barnes & Noble Nook, or just, in PDF form or what have you. But I also noticed too that unfortunately, some folks were encouraged to cut corners as well as they went through those progressions to get their book out there in that particular format. So, but there are some people who have mastered the ebook thing. I tip my hat to them. And the bottom line is, if you get into the game, you can either roll with the punches or you can sit back and complain. And nobody likes a complainer. So I encourage everybody to study up on those trends, roll with the punches, and make your book available in whatever format is digestible to the current society. And you got to do your research on that.
Yeah, I can't say enough for that. I think that's been a theme today as we talked about, scrubbing political candidates' records to understand who you're voting for. All of those things are so important in the process of how we go about doing things. We talked about with the rights earlier, just understanding budgets and doing your research and homework. And I mean, that's just kind of a theme throughout life. If we honor the process and the integrity of something, it's just important to do those things.
Right.
You recently got off the road because, well, you're always on the road, but recently got off the road from another opportunity to be a part of a book experience, right, and a writer's experience. And this has been something that you've been doing for a long time. Can you talk a little bit about, first of all, how you got into that particular space? And then what is it like today, aside from, all the saturation in the market, but this most recent experience, what was that experience like? So take us back to the beginning when you got involved. Why'd you get involved? How'd you get involved? And then what's happening today?
At the time, in 2004, 20 years ago, when I first got published, I was encouraged to hire a publicist, one to show me the ropes, one to introduce me to the who's who folks, and one to advise me on where I should go physically in starting national tours. And one of the first spots we went to was the National Book Club Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And the CEO was Mr. Curtis Bunn. And I think 2004 was either the first or the second year. And when I went, of course, I was in the process of converting The Looking Heart into like a national publication. The first version was just an independent local version. And so I hired some help to assist me in making my product look like it belongs around the nation and around the world. So I had a stop at the National Book Club Conference. And to my surprise, I say to my surprise because I was wet behind the ear, I didn't know any better. And there were a lot of authors who welcomed me with open arms, even though they didn't know anything about me. And my book was in the process of getting out there on the national stage. They welcomed me with open arms. They showed me the ropes. They stayed in contact with me. They did not mind me sending them emails or calling them. And so I really appreciate that. And the bread and butter of the National Book Club Conference, of course, was and is the book clubs. And the book clubs embraced me as well. And I thought that was a big blessing. And so that stop was put on the calendar annually or just whenever I could go. Back then, we toured all over the place, West Coast, East Coast, Deep South, Midwest. The landscape has changed. And you, of course, with COVID, when COVID was like first just taking over, that changed a whole lot as far as people's perspectives on traveling and marketing. And in my opinion, that era introduced book club meetings, but from a virtual standpoint. More people were apt to do virtual meetings with book clubs, for obvious reasons. And that trend is still prevalent to this day. But over the years, it has been a blessing because the book clubs were really behind me, and they really loved the fact that, hey, you know, each year or every other year or something, I'm able to come out with a new publication. I even changed genres on them, even came out with a trilogy. That had a warm welcome as well. And so the relationship, that's the main thing, Kenny, the relationships were established at National Book Club Conference. Those relationships, in my opinion, for my career, have been golden, man. I don't know where I would be to this day in the literary game without having established a relationship with those book clubs. And once they like somebody, they follow, and they do their very best to get more exposure for those authors. And what I like about them too, they're honest. They're going to be honest with you about how they feel about your work as well. So that's been a big, big blessing. So this year we were able to celebrate the 20th. Congratulations to Curtis in all of the book clubs and all of the honorees. That the banquet that night, I was blessed to sit at the same table as the guest speaker, famed actor Mr. Courtney Vance. And also, I cannot remember the young lady's name. She sat right beside me. She happened to be a correspondent for the old Vice documentaries. And at first I didn't believe it, but then I pulled up a Vice documentary on my phone, and there she was. Now, I wrote an article on Facebook, and her name is in that article, and I forget her name right off the top of my head. But those are the types of connections that are established at that event. And I'm a networker. I can't network enough. And so I always learn something at each event. We had a self-publishing seminar as well. I was asked to sit on that panel. And of course, sitting on that panel, your job is to instill within the audience, a variety of nuggets that would encourage them and assist them in their publishing journey. But I learned more from the other panelists than anybody. So that was a big blessing within itself. And so you always run into the who's who in the literary game at the National Book Club Conference. You know, I've rubbed elbows with Eric Jerome Dickey, rest in peace. Elin Harris, rest in peace. J. California Cooper, rest in peace. Terry McMillan. Had a chance to run into several authors, New York Times bestsellers, and at the time, Essence bestselling authors. And it's one of those things where when you are in the author lane, it's big time. Now, of course, there are a lot of things you're not going to see if you're not in the author lane, and especially if you don't have like a household name, basically. And but having said that, I want to encourage the prospective authors out there. Don't worry about being a household name. Worry about being the best writer that you can be, and study the business of publishing.
Let me ask you this question and give me a brief answer on this. What's one of the biggest mistakes that writers make? What's one of the biggest mistakes that publishers make?
Okay, I think one of the biggest mistakes writers make is assuming that writing is going to be a get-rich-quick quest.
Not so. Not so.
Not so. Not so. Very not so. Very not so. One of the biggest mistakes that publishers make is cutting corners in the process, trying to, in an effort to save money, and everybody's on a budget. But unfortunately, the product is a reflection of that. So there's some corners you cannot cut.
Yeah, well, you kind of alluded to that earlier when you talked about how your first publication, you got with somebody who was able to mentor you into understanding why that needed to be modified so that it could have a national audience. And that just speaks to issues of integrity and professionalism and more. And those things really do matter. While you're talking about, I'm going to cut a little bit over here, cut a little bit over there, what you're really cutting is your potential to move to that next level.
Right. And that's why I tell my mentee, I don't know how I ended up mentoring so many folks who are interested in writing and publishing. It wasn't part of the plan, but that's the reality. I do more teaching than I do writing. And I tell them, if you're not in this for the long haul, you and I would be wasting our time having a session.
Good stuff for sure. Let me ask you this question. You are a DJ, or you're an engineer professionally by day, and then you pull out your cape at night, and you're a DJ, you are a spoken word artist, you are an author, you're a publisher. I mean, you're a community servant. You've been in organizations that have actually invested in other people's lives in their community. What is the intersection of all of those things for you? Or do you see them as independent parts of a whole?
Well, at this juncture, Kenny, I can say that I would be hesitant to embark on anything at this juncture in life if it was not an attribute or a part of my calling. That's why for years, I consider myself poet, author, lecturer, but then that evolved into speaker, writer, producer. So everything that I do involves a form of speaking, involves a form of writing, and it also entails a form of production. So, I mean, whether I'm DJing, whether I'm performing spoken word, whether I'm doing a public speech, or whether I'm writing a blog or an article, everything that I do, it involves speaking, writing, and production. You know, DJing, it involves speaking, it involves production. You know, so that is why when people are branding themselves, I encourage them to be very realistic about your nature, about your calling, about your abilities. Speaker, writer, producer would have sounded very busy for me years ago, but that is a part of who I am. That is who I am, speaking, writing, and production.
Yeah. Good stuff indeed. We've got maybe about 5-6 minutes left. I want to ask you about Coco Inferno. What was the inspiration behind this? Of course, it's got a subtitle of Rock and Fire Part 2. There was a Rock and Fire published some time ago. Is this an extension of that, or what was the inspiration behind this publication?
Well, you know, we produced Rock and Fire Part 1 in 2007. Richie Carter, master photographer Richie Carter, shot the cover and shot the cover photo and actually designed the cover. And of course, Sylvia Smith was the model in the cover. And after I published the Poetry Vault last year, I had another folder within the vault where I had started working on Rock and Fire Part 2 years ago. But, you know, we're all spread out and doing different things. And, you know, so it was, at the time, it was 15 years later. And I talked to Richie, I talked to Sylvia, and I said, now, if y'all are feeling this, we can do a part 2. And I told them also that my writing has evolved. The subject matter, you know, I call it, you know, I'm not an erotica writer. I call it mature romance. But, you know, the book is not for children. It's not a church book. However, I do talk about some real issues in that. And the difference between Rock and Fire Part 1 and Part 2, Rock and Fire Part 2 actually has a short story for the final chapter. And so, but it is mature romantic poetry, and Rock and Fire 1 and Rock and Fire 2 actually go together. But if one reads both books, you will see the difference in my writing style. Part 2, I'm using more imagery. I'm using more simile. I'm using more metaphor. I'm using verbiage that would influence the reader to have to use their imagination. and I don't have to write the words. Like for instance, somebody used the analogy of, I showed you the cliff. Now I didn't tell you to jump off of it, but I showed you the cliff, and you have to make a decision at that particular juncture. So figuratively, that is the technique I applied as far as challenging myself to be a more mature writer. So, but Rock and Fire Part 2 is an extension of Part 1. But in my humble opinion, Part 2 reflects a more mature writing style.
Do you consider yourself to be a certain type of writer?
Kenny, having written blank verse, free verse, iambic pentameter poetry, having written fiction short stories, having written full fiction novels, I just consider myself a universal writer. I mean, just via publications,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not just stuck to one genre. Some people say, well, that's career suicide, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, when you're self-published, you can take those chances.
That's a great retort for sure. And it's very pragmatic as well.
Right.
Gives you some license to just explore, because
right.
and really, I think, tap into that natural creativity that oftentimes we attribute to people in that particular sphere.
Exactly.
Yeah. We've got just a few minutes left, and I wanted to ask you this question. You said something earlier about being in this thing for the long haul, so we got to presume, and perhaps even assume, that there are more books in Marc Lacy.
Well, you know how they say everybody has a book in them. However, everyone is not willing to go through that process to birth that book out of them. But I am willing to go through that process. Matter of fact, I can tell you now that there is another trilogy on the horizon.
Oh.
And my goal is to, how I staggered the Whiskey House trilogy. Curse of the Whiskey House came out in 2015, Viral Transgressions 2018, and The Ghost of Ace Honeycutt 2023. That won't be the case this go round. My goal is to release all three of them in one sitting.
Wow.
And another goal I have is to make them read a little faster, make them a little shorter, and just make it feel like you're just reading one book, even though you're reading three. So that is on the horizon.
Yeah, well, look, we'll just keep looking to the horizon because we know that it will reveal itself at some point. Marc Lacy, just a multi-talented brother, and I get to call him friend. How would people connect with you? I know you have a strong social media presence and a website and some other kinds of things. How would people find out more about Marc Lacy?
Please visit my website, marclacy.com, marclacy.com. Check me out on Facebook. My regular page is Marc Lacy. My fan page is Marc Lacy, speaker, writer, producer. I got a second page, Marcellus Lacy. Also, you can check me out on LinkedIn as well as on IG and X. My IG and X handles are the same, MARC_LACY. Oh, and visit Amazon.com too, please.
Of course. I mean,
yes.
I'll leave that out.
Right.
Brother, man, look, it's great talking to you. I look forward to catching up with you in about 2 weeks in the park. For Jazz in the Park 2024. Marc will be on the 1s and 2s holding things down. We look forward to it as always.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to that.
All right, brother. I'll see you soon, man.
All right. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marc Lacy joining us this afternoon for a roving conversation on his work as a author and publisher. And I always learn a lot when I talk to Marc. I'm always inspired when I talk to Marc. And of course, long-term friend, has great value in my life for so many reasons. I'm inspired by what he does and am honored to be able to work alongside him. I'm going to come back in just a moment and introduce my final guest at Second Chance. I'm Kenny Anderson. I hope that you're having an awesome and fantastic afternoon.
Transforming lives.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with my bro, Marc Lacy. Always good to be able to chop it up with him. And of course, we do that from time to time when we have an opportunity. His most recent book is Coco Inferno, Rock and Fire Part 2. And we wish him the best on his 14th publication and many, many more. My final guest today is Tracy Cheavious. She is a prominent professional based in the greater Birmingham, Alabama area. With a demonstrated history of achievement, Tracy has made significant contributions within the field of healthcare and pharmaceuticals. Tracy's been involved in spearheading notable projects, exemplifying excellence and leadership within the industry. And additionally, she has been an advocate for diversity, inclusion, and advancement of Black scientists, showcasing a commitment to fostering a more inclusive and equitable environment within the STEM fields. The last time she was here to introduce a program called Women in Advanced Manufacturing, WAM, Pre-Apprenticeship Program. I've invited her back to kind of get a little checkup on what's been happening since then. What's going on, Tracy? Birthday girl.
Thank you, Kenny. It's such a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the warm welcome and the amazing introduction. Yes.
Hey, listen, great to have you. I know I've been watching your journey on social media, just having a blast with your birthday. And I mean, anytime I see somebody having a blast with their birthday, you know, birthday month is coming up next month for me all month long. So look out, social media.
Yeah, it's very hard to not have a good time in Napa Valley. So lots of good stuff going on there.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Well, how have you been doing?
I have been well. I've been enjoying life and very excited about the Women in Advanced Manufacturing Cohort 1 completing here soon. So it's been a fantastic time on my end.
Yeah, you know, the last time you were here, you introduced this to us. You told us all about it. I was just blown away by the structure of this opportunity and the accessibility of this opportunity and what you would hope would happen on the other side. So take us back, first of all, to what the opportunity is. And then I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on. And I know got another cohort plan coming up in the future. And we just want to make sure people know everything they need to know about this tremendous opportunity. So let's go back and just tell us what this opportunity is.
Sure, absolutely. Again, you may have heard of it. It's called Women in Advanced Manufacturing. You may have also heard it called WAM. It's an opportunity that has been offered by our partners, the City of Birmingham, Lawson State Community College, and I'm representing the YWCA. It's a 6-month program at the Lawson State Bessemer campus. It focuses on 2 career tracks. That's machine tool technology, industrial maintenance technology. It's a very, very short amount of time, a commitment. So it's less than 10 hours of class time per week. We want it to fit into our participants' lifestyle. It's a comprehensive education leading to a certification. It's considered a pre-apprenticeship. We allow our students to go through this program and then be put into an actual apprenticeship, which is a higher, a position where they'll actually be working for a company, where they'll receive mentorship and support as well. So it's really designed to get them on a career track, not just an everyday job, but actually put them on a career track. But the most important thing, or one of the things that I really, really appreciate about this is that it's a program that does not have any cost to our participants. We also offer some amazing wraparound services like transportation back and forth to class. We offer some bill assistance in some fashions because we want whatever barriers are in the way of our students, we want to eliminate those so that they can be successful. All of their supplies will be available. We offer childcare assistance for mothers that need that assistance as well. But there are some new developments that we are excited to share as well.
Yeah.
Initially, it was only focused on BIPOC women, but we have opened it up to all women. But yeah, we want to make sure that, women that have had some challenges in life, we're able to support all women. So that's exciting.
So talk about how that came about? Was that just an internal conversation? Was it a recognition of the fact that there was an opportunity here that you really wanted more people to be able to take advantage of? How did that come about?
Meaning allowing for additional women to be in the program?
Yeah. Was it a natural evolution of the program or?
Yeah, well, we saw a lot of requests for participation from other ethnicities and backgrounds. And so as we saw that opportunity or saw those requests come in, we really wanted to make sure that we considered all women. And we had a meeting with our partners, and they agreed that this is something that we can offer. While our focus is still BIPOC women, we want to make sure that demographic is met. Again, it's open to all women.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And again, I think it speaks to the power of what people are trying to neutralize and liquidate in this state and many other places around the nation. And that's the conversation around DEI, what it really means, what it really represents in terms of these kinds of opportunities for all people in the community. And that's so very powerful and so very important. I want to get back to something because I never want to bury the headlines. I know that you did not do it, but you kind of said it and then kept it moving. This program comes at no cost. And I got to ask you, how does that happen? Is it being sponsored? Is it being funded through some kind of funding source? How does that happen?
Yeah, so this is from a grant. This was so the WJOU partners, which is the grant holders, they facilitated in this request. So they realized that there was a need because this is a area that is primarily dominated by men, and we realized that women would like opportunities of this nature as well. So Nancy, I'm sorry, and I'm drawing a blank on Nancy's last name. She's going to kill me. But she is one of she's the head of the program at Lawson State. So she was one of the major facilitators in identifying this need. So her, along with some of the partners, advocated in Washington for this funding.
Yeah, I am familiar with so many kinds of opportunities like this that emerge that are directed at populations that may have been marginalized or just are underrepresented in a variety of different spaces. I know that in the city of Huntsville, we have a partnership between Calhoun Community College and Huntsville Utilities to help inspire students to pursue careers in that particular area. There's underrepresentation there. There are more programs like that on the ground everywhere you look. And I think it's so important to direct people's attention to those opportunities because they really can result in some very, very stable and productive careers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, that's one of the things that's important, is to make sure that we're not just changing one generation, but multiple generations to come. And, myself as being a first generation college graduate in my family, I personally understand the impact of education, the impact of having a stable career, and how it can really, really impact just not my household, but generations to come. So the more opportunities we have like this, especially ones that are free, right, that don't leave you with student loans, right? I myself have tons of student loans, so when I get very excited when I hear about this for our prospective students.
Yeah, my first segment today, I talked with Lorenzo and Sarha Wright. They have a group called the WrightWay360 Wealth Group. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about transference of generational wealth. And oftentimes people think about that solely as money or assets. And I say, let's never overlook the asset of knowledge and information and education, because those things are generators as well to be able to position us and to prepare us for certain kinds of things. That's why I celebrate these opportunities. I get very excited about these opportunities, especially when they are combined with the community college. I spent 16 years at Calhoun Community College here in a variety of different capacities, both in the classroom and then as an administrator. but I think they have some of the best students on the planet and create some of the best workforce opportunities around. And I wonder if you would just speak to the potential for these kinds of opportunities, perhaps blooming in other areas, and the idea that when they happen, they impact people's lives and their lived experiences in real, tangible ways that can literally transform people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, what you said just brings a memory to me. One of my my good friends in my community mentioned to me, because I'm originally from Louisiana, and we grew up in a very underprivileged part of the city. And, he said, hey, it's really, really good that, because he was in investment banking. He said, it's really good that the kids of our community see people like you and myself who have been successful, working and getting opportunities and really taking advantage of them, because we set the standard now and we give the kids something different to see, right? Because a lot of times in our community, at least for me, I can say there weren't physicians and people that work in manufacturing and leadership roles, or people in prominent careers. We didn't have those examples. It was just, just people that maybe, work at just maybe a regular job and not necessarily career driven. So I think these opportunities inspire those types of mindsets and really inspire the generations, behind us to come and say, hey, if they can do it, I can do it as well. So I think these opportunities are great when it comes to inspiration, right? It's easier to do something that you see, that you can model and mimic, versus things that you may just see, far away on television, right? But if you see it in your community, I should say, I think it's very, very impactful. So that's why it's exciting now that we have graduates, from our current cohort that can go back to the community and say, hey, that's a fantastic program. This inspired me just from learning about the opportunity. Now I've been able to participate, and be an inspiration for others.
Is the success of the program just measured by the number of graduates, or are there other metrics that you kind of look at and think about in terms of, this is what success looks like, or this is what success feels like?
Yeah, I think, of course we want to measure completion of the program, of course, but I think our next goalpost is having them be hired, right? Having, these students actually move on to the next steps of their career and be hired, in working with their mentors and start to think about, again, like moving from entry level to higher level positions within companies. I think the diversity of the companies that they work for will speak volumes, right? Manufacturing, as you can imagine, applies to multiple areas. You can have pharmaceutical manufacturing, you can have steel manufacturing, you have the auto mechanic world when it comes to manufacturing, and all of those pieces of equipment will be something that our students will learn about in several areas of the curriculum. So I think that's another goalpost that we will be measuring. And then, of course, the diversity of people, right? To know that it's going to be impacting multiple communities. These are all just some of the ways that we look to measure success.
Yeah, and on the equity issue as well, which I think is sometimes the overlooked or underutilized element of the DEI spectrum. As far as equity is concerned, you said something earlier. I want to kind of go back to that too. The fact that you support these participants with transportation. We presume, and I'll use Huntsville as an example, 80% or more of the people here use their cars. You have people that literally leave their homes, 4, 5, 6 people live there. All 4, 5, 6 take cars wherever they go. So we are a car dependent community, which means that you kind of drive down the perceived need for public transportation.
Right.
But yet, growing up in public housing on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, that's how my parents and I got around. I mean, we didn't have a car. My dad never owned a car, actually. And so, I'm very sensitive to the need for transportation, affordable housing. And, affordable is relative, because affordable basically speaks to what you have available to be able to expend for whatever it is or wherever it is that you'd like to live. And so the fact that you all are mindful enough to ensure, well, let me say, to reduce the barrier of transportation, I think, is a hallmark of this program, because far too many initiatives are great initiatives, but they don't go far enough because people can't get access to them. And I think that's extremely valuable to the success of your program.
Agreed. So I think one of the things that I appreciate about the YWCA is we have multiple programs that we have caseworkers and people that are, in day-to-day with and understanding the community. And one of the things that we, I feel, have brought to this partnership is being able to fully understand what the group of people that we are targeting for this program need, right? And like you, Kenny, I grew up in public housing as well. Grew up in a very, again, disadvantaged community. And my mother also started, with, using public transportation. And I remember, riding the bus and, waiting and thinking about different, times where we couldn't get the bus. It stopped running, and this program actually, we will have some evening classes. So we wanted to make sure that, okay, if they can't catch the public transportation, if the bus stops at a certain time, how do they get home if they don't have access to this transit? So we think about all of these things and say, okay, what can we do to ensure that our students are successful? And so offering that transportation was one. And I think another very, very big advantage is the childcare as well. So, as a mom, of two, I understand that, my kids are going to come first, so if I don't have, things set up and things in place for them, then I can't move beyond that. So again, that's another area that I found has been very, very important to our students. And we've had our students to say, hey, if we did not have this transportation support, if we did not have this childcare, or if I didn't get help with the lights coming on, it's going to be hard to study. It's going to be hard for me to think about my studies and the work that I have to do to be successful. So again, I am so pleased to say our program helps with a lot of those areas.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, because those are things we just kind of tend to overlook in our enthusiasm to start something. And we realize that there's some people who may not be able to do it, except that we have those opportunities available for them. As far as completing the program, are the participants giving some kind of a survey when they leave? Are you able to get some kind of feedback from people? And I wonder what kinds of feedback you've gotten so far that might stand out in your mind as something that represents this specific opportunity for them.
Yeah, we do plan to gather some information from the students. We haven't done so yet. This was our very first cohort. So we're just grateful that everything went along really well with very few bumps. But yeah, I mean, of course, we want to understand what we can do better. We want to understand what kept them going. But one of the points of engagement has been from the YWCA side. And so we've gathered some of that information where participants are saying, hey, thank you for this piece. Thank you for the transportation. Thank you for the childcare. So we know that was very instrumental in their success. But from an academic standpoint, we want to gather some of that information as well. So we're doing that, as we speak. We haven't received all of that data just yet, but that is definitely something that we're looking to make sure that we analyze and prepare for in our second cohort.
So you are currently preparing for the second cohort. Is registration open now? Is it about to open? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So registration is open. We like to talk to our prospective students first and tell them all about the program. We do something that we call information sessions. And those information sessions are held by myself in a team of people that are a part of the partnership. And so we just hop on a call, Zoom call. We really walk through a set of slides that's very comprehensive, that tells you all about the program. We end with the Q&A session. After we do that, then we allow our students to go straight into the Lawson portal, where they can apply. And if they don't have access to a computer, or they just kind of want a little bit of support with completing the application, we have a coordinator that works at the Lawson State Community College, the Bessemer campus, that's there full time, and she's there to help support the application process. But yes, it is open now. We are ready to go. We've had a nice surge of applicants, but we're looking forward to having more. We want this to be our biggest class yet. So so we are looking to start the classes this upcoming October. We have pushed the dates back a little bit. We initially was going to start here in a few weeks, but because we've had a nice interest of people, we want to take the opportunity to make sure that we have as many applicants as we can and adjust accordingly. So we're excited about that.
And where can people get information?
So we do have, you can definitely go straight to the Lawson State Community College website and look for the WAM program. You can also go to workingforamerica.org/women advanced manufacturing. And I'll make sure that I provide that link to you, Kenny, so we can add that here. But yeah, so those two websites are the best way for us to get in contact. We also have Instagram as well as Facebook. So I'll also provide those as well. But you can just do a search for WAM on those platforms and we'll come up. But yeah, we're excited, Kenny. We are ready to receive as many applicants as we can. We want to make sure that we use this funding. We don't want to lose it, right? We want to make sure that we continue this program for many, many years to come.
Yeah, I'm excited for the program. And I must confess that as I listen to you, there is a word that kind of bubbles up in me that I like to use, but I use it very sparingly. Only use it in those instances where I think it really applies. And I'm going to use it in this situation because I think it does apply. This program has the potential to be transformative in the lives of the people who are impacted. By that, I mean that lives being changed open up all kinds of possibilities for their success going forward. And there's no ability now to tell what that will mean at some point for people's lives. But as this program grows and continues to gain deep roots, investing in the lives of these individuals, it will be a transformative program. And at the point that you and your staff or your friends, your colleagues are sitting around saying that, remind them that I said that first on the show here.
Absolutely. Spoken here first by the Kenny Anderson. We'll make sure we note that.
No, I mean, I just get so, this is a crazy world. I mean, there's a lot of ugly stuff happening in the world. And then you hear about WHAM. It's like, wait a minute.
Right.
This program is in existence and it provides a game-changing, life-saving, transformative opportunity for people. Let me hear more about that. And that's really what I hope people who are listening today will say, and that they will reach out and get more information about this process because it can change a life. It might even save a life. Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're talking about this afternoon. Tracy, is anything else that you want to share before we wrap up the conversation? I give you a chance to tell people where to find you one last time.
Yeah, just feel free, right, to reach out to us on any of those platforms that I mentioned. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to hop on a one-to-one phone call. That's how much we care about this program. It's just not in massive groups. Also, if you have an organization that has women that would be interested, we're also happy to come by and do an info session on site for you guys, or host an info session on campus at Lawson. So there's many options. So, as far as any organization that's looking to expand their resources for their participants, WHAM would love to come and speak. So yeah, very excited. Look forward to hearing from anyone and everyone that's interested.
You just made me think, nonprofits that are out there listening, faith communities that are listening out there, sports and after school programs that are listening out there. I mean, folks, there's an opportunity here. We don't have to sit around and moan over what's not available. Let's focus on what is available, get engaged by taking advantage of it, and so much more. Tracy, thank you for joining me this afternoon. I look forward to having more conversations like this with you and learning about the program. And the next time you come on, you're going to bring a graduate of the program or two, and we'll hear their first-person testimonies about the transformative nature of this program.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking forward to doing that. And Kenny, thank you again for having us. This is such an amazing platform to share this information. So we look forward to being back again soon.
Open invitation, Tracy.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care of yourself. See you soon.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Folks, I tell you, what a show today. What a way to end the show. More great information. We're going to make sure we drop that information in the chat so that you can know exactly how to get connected to this amazing program. I know I'm going to tell as many people as possible about the program. And I know a lot of people in the Birmingham area too. So I'm going to make sure that people know and that they have the opportunity to take advantage of it. I'm definitely going to post it on my social media sites because, I'm just that guy. That's what I do. And I like to let people know about positive things that are happening in and around the world. I'm going to come back in just a moment, thank my guests from today, and then tell you a little something about what to expect on next week. It's Second Chance. I'm Kenny Anderson. I hope you're having a great afternoon.
Perhaps you have some ideas, comments, or suggestions that you would like to share, or perhaps you'd like to be a guest on the broadcast. We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email Kenny Anderson at mxlife@aol.com, or you can like us on the Second Chance Facebook page. That's 2ND Chance. And now, back to more of Second Chance with Kenny Anderson.
Once again, we want to say thank you for being part of our conversation today. And boy, were they great conversations. We kicked things off with Lorenzo and Sarha Wright of WrightWay360 Group. And we hope that you'll take an opportunity to find out more about what they're doing. Zoie Roberson joining us this afternoon, the granddaughter of William Smothers, publisher of Speaking Out News, who stands on her own as a powerhouse and a force to be reckoned with on the Fit to Vote initiative, telling us all about that and her internal perspectives on a variety of things. My man, Marc Lacy, joining us, talking about his 14th publication, Cocoa Inferno, Rock and Fire, Part 2, Tempting Lyrics of Blazing Mahogany Ecstasy. And we had a great conversation about that this afternoon. And Tracy Cheavious, she is with Women in Advancing Manufacturing Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Tracy is a superstar in the area of pharmaceutical work, as well as workforce development, DEI, and STEM. And we're always happy to have her on the platform. On next week, what's going on? My social and political roundtable discussion. The Democratic National Convention kicks off this week, and it's going to be a lot to talk about on next Sunday with some combination of individuals who typically grace the platform for what's going on. Jazz in the Park starts 2 weeks from tonight. Pre-opening act is going to be Joe Rosam out of California, Jeff Bradshaw, and also opening act. And then the headliner will be Joaquin Joyner, saxophonist. We hope that you'll come out and be a part of that. It's all free, and it's in Big Spring Park. East starts at 5:00 p.m. Bring your lawn chair and your appetite and have a good time. In the meantime, we hope that you have a good rest of the week. Remember, as always, knowledge is better than riches. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk again soon. Good day.
Thank you for tuning in to Second Chance. We hope that the information that was shared has been a blessing to you and that your life will be enriched as a result of it. We'd love to hear from you. So please send your email comments to Kenneth Anderson at mxlife@aol.com. That's mxlife@aol.com. And check out our Facebook page, 2ND Chance. That's 2ND Chance. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week. Good day.